As Old as Time, Part 1. The Rose. Cogsworth and Lumiere fritted at the edge of the stairs, debating nervously about going up after her. Belle left without them. This part of the castle was different. If every other room seemed a little musty, cool, dark, and abandoned, the west wing felt like a cave. Also moist, as if a window had been left open despite the early winter weather. Strange, if not strictly unpleasant, barn-like smells assaulted her nose, vaguely reminiscent of animals. Belle realized she was holding her breath. What must have once been a truly spectacular mirror framed in gold took up the entire far wall at the top of the stairs. Its silvered perfection had been destroyed long ago. Shards of deadly glass stuck out like teeth in the otherwise empty frame and littered the floor. There wasn't a single piece remaining that was as large as Belle's hand. But all of them, every single one, from the finger-sized remainders to the teeniest gem-like droplet, reflected her face and the pale, worried look she hadn't been known she wore. Something was building in the back of her head, thrumming and pulsing, fear or panic or excitement that she was about to learn something important. It was obvious she was on the right track. Next to the mirror was a pair of monstrous wooden doors. Their bronze handles were in the form of strangely familiar demons. Belle was reluctant to place her hands over their uncomfortable and jagged forms, but she did. A sudden gust of wind caught the doors and slammed them all the way open. Belle fell through, tumbling helplessly into the room. At first she thought she had found a bizarrely cluttered attic. Furniture was scattered around like a drunken giant had come through, smashing his way to the window. Hard chairs were knocked down and broken. Soft ones were strangely unharmed, but pushed together in unusual clusters. Rugs were bunched back up over themselves like something had tried to burrow beneath them. The floors beneath were scored with silver scratch marks, 4 in a line, like a giant claw. Streaks of dust striped tapestries with hung torn and off-kilter from splintered rods. Scattered here and there were eerily white objects, bones picked clean. This, Belle knew without even thinking, the lair of the beast. A handsome 4-poster bed was the only thing in the room that had seemed untouched and unused. It was sized for a young child. The rosewood poles would have been like a cage for someone like the beast. A 10-year-old, maybe. 10 years. Everything had begun to happen 10 years ago. Belle's heart started to race. Had the beast invaded this castle, consumed everyone alive in it, and taken this prince's room for his own? She jumped when another gust of wind caused the shredded curtains to suddenly whip out like angry ghosts. As clouds scuttled away from the moon outside, everything was illuminated in pale white light. Besides the general disarray, there were more violent signs of destruction, now made obvious. Some of the chairs were deliberately smashed, a desk lay in pieces in a corner, side tables were torn apart, their marble tops cracked like ice. Belle swallowed. Were all of these things once animated, like the teapot and clock? Had they been lively and talkative, moving and adorable, but were now stilled in a strange death? How had it happened? Was there some sort of war to protect the castle? Were these soldiers somehow killed in battle? Or were they just victims of the beast's rage? Belle bit her lip and pushed further into the room despite every instinct telling her to run away. But she would get no answers by remaining at the edges. And there was something comforting about the moonlight streaming in from the window. Belle made her way to the far wall, hoping for a gulp of fresh air. She tiptoed around moldering piles of clothes that lay undisturbed by mice. She tried not to shudder at a broken-down wardrobe, a smaller version of the one who had spoken to her. This one lay silent and covered in cobwebs, its door pulled off its hinges and drawers askew. Past that was a portrait almost as large as the mirror in the hallway, and almost as destroyed. Great shreds of canvas and peeling oil paint hung from its elaborate frame. 4 very deliberate claws had done this. Belle reached forward without thinking and tried to reposition the 2 largest remaining pieces, like a puzzle, to see what the object was. It seemed to be a young man with piercing blue eyes and what looked like royal clothes. Belle frowned. He was too old to be the last occupant of the child-sized bed in the room, but also too young to be the boy's father. Who was it? Mystery upon mystery. Something sparkled at the corner of her eye. There, familiar to the room, in front of the windows she was trying to reach, was a little white stone-topped table, completely free from the destruction that had been torn apart everything else. On it sat two things glittering in the moonlight. One was a pretty silver hand mirror, and the other one was a red rose under a bell jar.